and welcome to my book nook.
We are monsters. We give and we take.
Those that are new around here, the name's Rainy. I read all different types of books, primarily fantasy romance, so if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe to my channel down below. It really helps my channel grow. And in today's video, we are going to be sharing my Every Romantasy Challenge TBR. This is a Romantasy challenge that was created by the lovely Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, who I like. My daughter is right below me, who I like very much, and so I'm very excited to do this challenge. But basically, she wants to be in the video. Basically, she took all the best romantasy tropes and the most popular ones like enemies to lovers, fated mates, and all of that, and decided that you needed to do some sort of challenge. So there's 8 main tropes that you have to read books for, but each of those 8 tropes has to also work with another, like, category within this thing. And then there's also microtropes, but like you can read different books for microtropes, and so I figured I was going to read different books for those and still share them with you because I wanted to read as many as possible. And then there also is bonus challenges of like, can you find like vampires and monsters and vampires and all these other creatures within your books. So I have a bunch of books set up, and so I'm just going to share with you what my TBR is. I also am probably going to have a TBR video coming out soon for Romantasy-a-thon as well, which is taking place by Tori, because I'm just going to read all the romantasy books in the next coming months. So with that being said, let's just dive in. I'm not going to give you a big explanation on all of these books because we will be here for 5,000 years because I have a lot of books to share. But let's get started. Guess you've just become a regular addition to these videos now, haven't you? What do you have to say for yourself? Okay, well, let's get started then. Anyway, the first one that we have is Reluctant Allies. So these are people that are not necessarily friends, but they're not necessarily enemies, but they have to work together for the greater good, and so they end up becoming, you know, lovers in the process. And so I have Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Schurer. I have put this on many a TBR before. However, I'm very interested in reading it, okay? And I know that I have to read it before Blood and Steel, which you will see that come on in just a minute for a different activity or different trope. But this one, I know that it has a Shadow Wraith, and I'm pretty sure that this girl in the book, like, her family was killed by Shadow Wraiths or something. I could be 100% wrong, like I might not be right. But anyway, it looks very great. Like, I'm just very excited to read this book. Very eager, if we may say. So, that is the book one. And the unlocking trope that's going to go with this is I'm going to listen to this on audiobook. So that is the other one that I have to do. So I have to listen to this on audiobook, which is pretty easy because I listen to all of my books pretty much on audio nowadays. Next one we have is Fated Mates, and so I decided to go with a very obvious one, The Crown of Oaths and Curses by J. Bree. No, I have not read this yet, and I was supposed to read this for Covers with Cassidy's, like, Patreon buddy read or something a couple months ago, but I didn't get to it yet. I'm very excited to get to it now, and book 2 just came out, so I can, like, binge it if I really, really like it. But all I know is that this is about a witch and a witch hunter, and so obviously they are not on the same side, and they are fated mates. So the bond between them is just unbreakable. Why do you keep focusing on Miss Ma'am and not me? The bond between them is unbreakable, and it just keeps pulling them together, even though it takes everything in them to try and stay away from each other, as they want to just hurt one another. And so I cannot wait to read this book. I'm so excited to finally be able to get to it. And the unlocking trope for this one is a book you already own, because I already owned this. I did not acquire it for this video. There are a couple that I did, not this one. So there you go. The next category is having 2 or more love interests, and so I went with Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Rourke. I have seen this blowing up anywhere and everywhere on basically everybody. All the book talk girlies, all the booktube girlies are reading this, okay? So I'm very excited to get to this one. Decided she wanted to change seats. Anyway, I don't know a lot about this book. I just know that it is extremely chunky, which is why the unlocking trope that I am going with it is on Kindle Unlimited, because I figure I'm probably going to read it on KU because I read faster on there, and this is just heavy. However, I did want to own this book, and somebody was selling it on Pango for a very, very good price. So yeah, that's why I bought it. But I'm very excited. I hope to get to it soon. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this book. The next book that we have is Arranged Marriage, and there were a lot that I could go with for this, but I ended up going with A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova, and I actually picked this for my unlocking trope of using a spinner wheel. So I picked a bunch of arranged marriages and put them on and spun, and if I can find my video where I did that, then I will put it here so you can see that I did spin this. But yeah, I've had this for a minute, and I've been excited to read it and start the Married to Magic novel. So honestly, any of these in the series could have worked. Like, I think there's one called like A Duel with the Vampire Lord. Like, there's a couple. But this one is about the elves come for 2 things, war and wives, and in both cases they come for death. And so I'm super excited to get to this one, and it is a short one, thank goodness, because some of those other ones are chunkers, but this is the one that I'm going to go with for Arranged Marriage. The next one is a bodyguard romance, and I'm not gonna lie, I thought that was pretty difficult until my friend Katie actually told me that the book that we are doing for for our book club read in June. It's actually perfect for that. And it is The Heir of Sun and Moon by Janessa Wren. All I really know about this book is that it's a Rapunzel retelling and it has a bodyguard romance in it. So like, say a little less to me, okay? And I'm so excited. The author is so sweet and lovely. We're getting to actually do a live chat with her for my book club, which I'm very excited about. And she is also she also just sent me the paperback, well I bought it, the paperback edition of her book, but it came with a bunch of different art prints and it's on its way in the mail and I am so very excited to get to it. Honestly, she's lovely, so I'm very glad that I get to support her in this way. But yeah, I am so freaking excited to get to use that for bodyguard because that one took the longest to figure out. And that one for Unlocking Trope is for Friend Recommends because Katie recommended it to me to us to read for the book club. So I wouldn't have even known about this book if it wasn't for my friend Katie. The next one is the one that obviously everybody is expecting to be on there, and that is Enemies to Lovers. That we have Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole, and it had to be a sequel. I had to have an Unlocking Trope that was a sequel, so I picked that. So it had to be a sequel, and so they are still enemies in this one, which is why it worked. I thought it was going to be tough, but like the main love interest in the first book was not really in it that much, and so it worked out. I'm trying to film this real quick while she is distracted. So anyway, the main male interest or love interest in the first book was not really prevalent yet, so his story is going to be further developed in here, and so they are still enemies at this point and they're going to have to work together, okay? Enemies to Lovers is my favorite trope ever. I'm so freaking excited. I loved book one and I cannot wait to get into this. I'm about to do a buddy read with my friends Katie and Sarah because we are all hooked on this. Well, Katie hasn't read it yet, but she's going to be hooked on it. So anyway, that's what we're going to read for this, and it is a sequel. Are we going to get this video done with Miss Ma'am? I don't freaking know. We're trying, okay? All right, so the next one was Forbidden Love, and this one was easy because it is currently our book club pick for May, and that is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, which if you can tell, I'm already halfway through this book right now. I am annotating it so that I keep notes for our live chat, which is going to be on June 2nd, pretty sure at 2:30 on my channel, so make sure to subscribe to that. You can join our Discord and our book club in like the link down below. I'm not going to even explain this book because I can't even begin to explain this book. Just know there are dragons and moons and dragons crusted into moons and a forbidden love and just kings and dungeons and all of the things, okay? This book is beautiful, lyrical writing. I'm having the best freaking time of my life with this book. It's going to be a 5 stars, I feel like. And so I'm already ahead of the game because I'm already halfway through this book. And it is a chunker. And for Unlocking Tropes, I went with Social Media Wreck because I totally picked this up because Rachel from Raven Haired Reader like was obsessed with it, and that's why I picked it up. And I have the indie version, which is very exciting because you can't find that anymore in stores. Okay, so I just put Miss Ma'am to bed because she was acting extremely clingy, and so I know that that means that she's very, very tired. However, I feel like I want to restart the whole video because she was just being so difficult throughout all of that, and I don't even know if I got good footage. However, I also don't want to restart because she's only going to sleep for probably a couple minutes, if we're being honest, because she just doesn't sleep for that long anymore, so we're just going to keep going. But the last one in the big list of 8 is Friends to Lovers, and so this was a very obvious one because I've heard this from multiple people that this is Friends to Lovers, and so I'm very excited to finally prioritize it, and that is Blood Mercy by Vila Roth. I actually just read the pre-novella to this called Blood Price for Brittany Fate's Readathon, and I loved it, and I think it was like the perfect entryway into this because it really got me hooked on her writing and the way that she, you know, writes and talks about politics and all that, because I've heard this is very a political heavy fantasy romance, and so I'm excited to get to this now. But yeah, it just says, one human, one immortal, will their alliance save the kingdom, or will their forbidden love be a death sentence? So it's also forbidden love. I could have used it for that, but I'm using it for Friends to Lovers. So anyway, I am very excited because I know like the relationship between the main characters in this book and Blood Price, which is very exciting. So anyway, I am probably most excited for this one because I've been wanting to read this for a hot minute. And the Unlocking Trope that I did for this was new author because she was a new author when I put it on this list. And so you know what? I'm not going to make myself do this again because she was a new author when I picked this. Okay? Okay. Maybe I can change some of these around. You know what? We're just going to switch out Miss Girly Pop and her, and she is going to be a social media wreck because I also saw this on social media because Booked and Busy was the first one that I saw talk about this, and then Cassidy. And so I liked it from both of them. And then I'll just say Sarah A. Parker is a new author to me for When the Moon Hatched. I'm switching them around. Okay? Okay. I'm allowed to do that. And so those are the 8 primary books that I'm going to be reading that I'm so very excited about. And then we have a bunch of microtropes. And so it was a little bit harder to find books for these tropes because like, how are you going to know if a book has that? So like through the power of Reddit and Google, I tried my very best, and some of these might not actually be right. And some of the books that I'm actually reading might have these tropes within them. And so if they do, I'll just check them off that way. But you know, this is the way that we're going to do it. Okay? Okay. So for one of the microtropes is on the run. So where, you know, the girly pop or the main character is on the run. And so I picked Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher because I've been very excited about this one. And all I know about the main girl is that she tries to off herself for some reason using this magical sword, and when she pulls this sword out or something, this genie type character comes out, and basically he has to help her, like, or protect her from not hurting herself. I don't really know. I feel like I'm butchering what this is about, but I've heard nothing that's cute and whimsical and fun, although that means I might not like it because it sounds more cozy fantasy-esque, but you know what, we're putting it on there because I've wanted to read it and I'm excited to get to it. Next one, I have no idea if this is right or not. Almost Trope was almost kisses, you know, where like they almost kiss but then they actually don't. And so I went with Beneath Black Sails by Claire Sager, which I'm excited to read this because some of the characters were also mentioned in her other Regency romance series called A Kiss of Iron. So there's a connection between the two, and I loved A Kiss of Iron. I have a special edition book of it. Anyway, so this one, all I know is that it's a pirate fantasy romance. That's really all that I know, but I really like Claire Sager's writing, and so I'm very excited to get to another book of hers. Next Microtrope is a bath scene, and I've heard that there's one in Blood and Steel by Helen Shearer, and since I'm going to be reading Slaying the Shadow Prince, I'm also going to hopefully get to this, because this is a fantasy romance series that I am sleeping on, and I do not want to be sleeping to anymore. And I don't really know what it's about. I really don't know what any of these are about, okay? I'm just going in blind, but you know what? That's the best way to do it. That's the best freaking way to do it. So, I'm gonna read this. It'll be great. The next one is Lost Memory, and so this one, I've been wanting to read this book, so I finally had my mom buy it for me for Mother's Day, and that is North Queen by Nicola Teich. All I know about this is that it is a girl, the main character, does have amnesia trope in this. That is all that I know. And also, it has a lost heir, so I could have used this for the next one, but it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, so this one has the amnesia trope. It just says the return of a lost heir, a conflicted duty, a twisted fate. And I have seen this on a couple of people's Instagrams. I haven't seen as many people talk about this book, but it is a trilogy, which, you know, is exciting, but it looks very good, hence why I can't wait to get to it. The next Microtrope was Long Lost Heir, and I'm not actually going to say which book that I'm reading for this because I picked this and this was on a list of books before I read the book, and I have since read the book and realized that that was kind of a spoiler for this book because it's like one of the second or third books in a series, and I don't want to ruin that for everyone else. But I have picked a book for The Lost Heir, and I have already read this book. But if you don't know what a Lost Heir is, it's basically like either the character didn't know that they were the lost heir, or they just didn't know that they were the heir to the throne or whatever, and then they find out in some crazy way. So I'm not going to say what I was reading, but it was very much Lost Heir. Also, the heir just kicked in and we're gonna go with it. The next one is He Falls First, which obviously we love a good He Falls First moment, and so I'm going to be reading Rise of the Cinder Fae by Whitney Dean, and yes, this is a special edition. This is literally one of the most beautiful special editions I have ever owned in my life. I kid you not, this is freaking stunning, and I am so excited to get to this. And it is a Cinderella retelling, He Falls First, arranged marriage, enemies to lovers, all of that sort of stuff, okay? So, I can't even, I needed some way to put this onto my TBR, and I'm so glad that this worked out for that. Then the next Microtrope is One Bed or One Horse, and I've heard this one has a one-horse trope, and that is The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. This is a Viking-esque Nordic fantasy romance. That's all I really know about. A woman on the run, a crew of Viking mercenaries, a forbidden romance, and the secret which threatens them all. Ooh, mystery. I've heard a couple of people read this and say that it was really good, and so honestly, just one person needs to tell me a fantasy romance is good to add it to my list. It's not very difficult to do. Then we have Knife to the Throat trope, which obviously I went with The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee because I want to read this wonderful smutty romance of a time. I've never read a fantasy romance by her, but I'm very excited to get to this. And it says, it ignites the pages with relentless danger, forbidden passion, and the intoxicating allure of enemies to lovers. Ooh la la. Plus it's really pretty. I wish I had the gold shimmery foil edges edition from Barnes & Noble, but I missed out on that, and everyone is selling it for like $5 million and beyond. But either way, glad we're having it all on the TBR. The next one is Bad Dreams, and this one was kind of tricky, and I went with Soul Eater, which I have heard Jess from Honest Fiction talk about, and I believe April or Hannah Blackwell, I can't remember which one, but I just know that it has some weird type of like monster. It's like a monster romance, and that's all I really know about it. This is the cover, and that's all I know, okay? We're really going into this one blind. I don't typically go for like monster romances that often, but you know what? We're gonna give it a try because I've heard that this creature is just wholesome and fabulous, and that's all I really need to know. And then last but not least, we have the Who Did This To You trope, which obviously I love, and we're going to go with an oldie but a goodie, The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. I actually read A Fate Inked in Blood this year by her, and I had the best freaking time of my life with that book. It was so good, so I need to get more into her writing, and I know that this is a very political fantasy romance, and I've been wanting to read it for a minute. I'm also sleeping on this series, and so once again, it's made its way to the TBR, yeah! And then there were some bonus challenges where basically I had to have a book with vampires, a book with fae, a book with witches, a book with dragons, a book with pirates, and a book with Vikings, and so I did complete that. The vampire one is for Blood Mercy, Fae is Lady of Darkness, Witches is A Crown of Oaths and Curses, Dragons is When the Moon Hatched, Pirates is Beneath These Black Sails, and Vikings is Road of Bones. And so with that, I will have covered every book, and I'm going to finish it within this year so I can complete the Every Romantasy challenge. If you want to do it as well, I will link Cassidy's video underneath here. She has a nice little spreadsheet that you can keep track of your books and Canva templates and all that sort of stuff. If you got to the end of this, let's put a dragon emoji because I see When the Moon Hatched down there, and let me know, are any of these books on your radar? Are there any books that I should have picked for these tropes as opposed to these? Like, let a girl know. I need all the fantasy romance recs I can get. And with that, I'll see you guys in a video very soon.